Kia ora. After these excellent speakers, I feel like, I don't have as much to say. But anyway, dark spaces can actually be quite, deceptive. If you looked at my upbringing, it would appear that everything was rosy and everything was going really well. I had a loving family. I did reasonably well at school, unlike most of my classmates. I think I had about 60 in fifth form, 30 in sixth form, 9 in seventh form. Remember, I'm talking about, this is before it got changed to the new system. And I think about 3 of us went to university, so I did okay. So by all accounts, everything was good. But then there's always a big but. Even today, but especially back then in the 70s, life was very centred around pink and blue. All our activities were focused around and socialised around who you are as a male or a female. For most people, that was not a big problem. People were quite satisfied with who they are. But I always knew deep inside me that there was something was amiss. There was some issue there. I couldn't work it out. Some nights I was praying to God that maybe when I woke up I'd be different. But unfortunately that never happened. I don't know whether you remember, but sometimes you get the beginning of the school year and all the brochures come out with the things for preparing socks and shirts and things to school. And I used to look at the girls' socks and think, wish I could wear them. Look at the girls on the netball court and think, I wish I could be one of you. Still not knowing exactly what was wrong. It became a big stress in me. But for most of my life, I tried to press it down. Most people at school, they're taught you have XX and XY, i.e. male and female. But unfortunately, very few people are taught that there are actually other patterns, chromosome patterns out there. There are also different patterns of hormones and anatomy. And all of these come in many various combinations. Unfortunately, we're still taught that there's only pink or blue. There's only male or female. And this is something that caused me a lot of struggle. I knew there was something wrong, but no one could tell me. I remember one time I was at high school, I can't remember exactly what year, and I remember seeing this bar, I think it was in Australia, on the news, and people could get a chance to cross-dress and be something different. I thought, wow, amazing. Anyway, I tried to suppress this problem, tried to be as good as I could with who I was, or who I thought I was. Until I had a light bulb moment. I'd just sold my school. I'd come back from Korea, taught over there for 4 years. Come back, I'd opened my own English school, teaching students from Korea, Japan, China. I think that's where most of the students were from. Luckily, I managed to sell it just before the market totally collapsed. I didn't make much money, but at least I paid all the debt. And then I was trying to work out what to do next. In the meantime, my ex and I were having a few problems, and it caused me to start looking back at some surgeries I'd had when I was younger. And in the meantime, I was also trying to think of what to do with my life. So I decided, well, I've been managing a school, so maybe I could look at some management. So I went off to management at Waikato, did a couple of papers because I thought that then I could go off and do my master's. And once I started doing those papers, I began to get some access to academic databases. Now, I know most of you are in a completely different era to me, and you've got access to the internet, and the internet's much better now than it was even back then. Mostly on the internet, when I looked up terms about intersex, and I'll explain that in a minute, most doctors just said it was a cosmetic thing they had to fix. Yet in me, I knew something was wrong. And the more I searched in the deeper academic databases, I began to have an experience. I guess some people call it the aha moment. I call it the lightbulb moment. And effectively, I feel like it was the time where I was born. I began to understand something I'd been missing for almost 40 years. I actually understood who I was for once. Before this, I thought, well, maybe I was transgender because I wasn't happy there. I wanted to be on the other side. But finally, I understood I was intersex. And I think, yep. Intersex is someone whose chromosomes, anatomy, and hormones do not fit the normal patterns of, or the binary notions of male and female bodies. That was something that kind of, it was really a revelation for me, because suddenly I understood, when I understood my surgeries that I had when I was younger, how this all fitted in together. There are well over 30 different variations of intersex variations. Doctors call them conditions, but I definitely don't want to use that word, because we're not sick. We're just different. Now, some of these variations don't even appear until puberty, or sometimes they don't even, without investigation, they don't even appear at all. Moreover, we don't actually know exactly how many of us there are in this world because doctors hide us. From medical records that we do know, there's probably at least 1.7% of us around. When I was talking in my TEDx talk, I think I mentioned that in my whole life, I've only met 4 in New Zealand. Now, given the fact there should be 1.7% of the population, that tells you something's wrong. Now, intersex people may have a normal male or female identity, or they may, how I would class myself, have more of a non-binary identity. So some people have, well, this is where it gets really tricky, because once you start talking about heterosexual, homosexual, well, as an intersex person, I'm in the boundary of everything. So where you place yourself on even that side of things, I don't know. But unfortunately, although in one sense I was full of joy because I finally understood who I was, On the other hand, that was the beginning also of a lot of difficulty. Because once I became happy with who I was, society wasn't happy with who I was. Society hasn't fully accepted who I am. And so, in one sense, I'm still hitting rock bottom quite regularly. No, sorry, I've done that one. Oh, actually, no, I'll just go back to that one. Often what people don't realise, sorry, I'll just quickly go back to this one. Doctors are continually still fixing us according to their words. Many of us undergo, the United Nations has called it torture. And we're still forced under these treatments just to maintain a male and female world. And like I said, because I know there should be a lot more of us around, that tells you that everyone's been normalised and fixed into this male and female world. Oops, wrong way. Nowadays, I do have a living partner. I'm slowly getting new friends around me. I've completed now, I decided not to do management. I'm glad you got your MBA. I decided to go on a different path. I got my LLB, LLM, and then for some silly reason I decided to do my doctorate. Don't recommend that. It's really hard getting a job. Maybe if you do it in engineering or something, you might be okay, but don't do it in law. Don't do it. From that point, it can look a bit successful, apart from getting a job. But unfortunately, there are still some negatives. And these are things like, I know the other speakers here have talked about. Sometimes there's never just one hard moment. Sometimes you go through quite a few. So people see me around, but on the other hand, they don't know I exist. It might sound funny, but it's actually true. When my partner and I are around, we're always hearing people talking behind our back, sneering, laughing. There are many times you feel out of place. Toilet issues, sports issues, forms don't even have a place for me. However, at least now, and this is a thing some of you have brought up too, at least I know who I am. And that's something I didn't have for my first 40 years of my life. So I have some difficulties, yes. But on the other hand, I would never go back to jail. I just pretend to be someone I'm not. And trust me, it did feel like jail. It really did. So I can't change who I am. This is who I am. This is important for my mental health, my psychological health. Like I say, otherwise I'd be going back to jail, and nobody likes to go to jail. So I just want to quickly finish with some of the insights that I've had over my discoveries. First one, be true to who you are. This is really important, and I think it also backs up a lot of what you've said as well. Everyone is different. Don't be ashamed. It can be really a harsh world out there, trust me. And I know some of you also know what I mean. But be strong. Be true to yourself. Surround yourself with supportive people. This is really, really important. Becoming who you are is a narrative journey. you're always writing your life. Until the day you die, you are still writing your story. Don't be afraid to assert who you are. Be strong, stand up. Yet at the same time, don't disrespect others. We need a supportive community that looks after and that looks after each other and stands by each other. And the last one, be prepared that some doors may close based on who you are, but there's going to be some doors that will open. Like I was saying to I think it was Jason before, earlier this year I had some really dark moments. I've applied for well over 200 jobs. I think I had about 3 or 4 interviews, and until just recently I have got a job, but it's only teaching one paper for one semester. But short-term job, but anyway, it's still a job. But there's always little things that are going to come up. So, yeah, I'll finish it.